Welcome to Tone Talks. Welcome to Tone Talks. Welcome to Tone Talks. How's everybody doing today? This is Antonio Moore coming to you from Tone Talks. I appreciate you guys tuning in today. Essentially, what I'm going to talk about is Harvey Weinstein in context of Bill Cosby and everything we saw when Bill Cosby was accused of sexual harassment. But before I do that, what I want to do is say thank you for you guys tuning in this past Friday to my radio show that aired at 7 p.m. Pacific on Dash Radio, on Dash Talk. And essentially, I'm going to keep coming every Friday. It's going to be 7 to 8. Download the Dash Radio app, press Dash Talk. Essentially, you'll be able to call in, hear me discussing things with everything from guests to myself about topics of the day and everything. And I want to tell you guys this week I'm going to have Dr. Kevin Cosby, president of Simmons College. He also is working with me and Yvette Carnell on the Angela Project and Black Reparations. He spoke at Muhammad Ali's funeral. If you Google Kevin Cosby, Muhammad Ali's funeral, you'll hear his powerful speech. It was just moving. Essentially, we're going to be talking about everything from how Ali contextualizes against a larger landscape of NFL protests and Colin Kaepernick and LeBron James to the FBI probe. What we're talking about today is Harvey Weinstein and Bill Cosby. These two men committed atrocious acts against women, and the sexual harassment allegations are just unbelievable. You know, and I think that it's a sad day for Hollywood, and it's a sad day for America. But at the same time, we have to be honest about kind of like the imagery. You know, whereas with Harvey Weinstein, we see him at parties, and we see him with his wife, and we see him with Matt Damon. The criminalization of Bill Cosby came a lot quicker. And in my belief, it has a lot to do with the fact that we're looking at this thing through the wrong lens. Essentially, we're trying to look at it through just gender, when actually this is more of an issue of power. And fundamentally, the rarity of a black man having the power of Bill Cosby versus the common reality of white men having the power of Weinstein kind of shows how Harvey was able to hide. You know, essentially for years he was able to pay people off, and he was able to quash stories. And you might say, well, Bill Cosby was able to too, but he's a rare instance. I just did the piece with Matt Brunig last week using the newest Federal Reserve data. Go Google it, that barely any black millionaires exist. What I showed is out of 20 million black families, a mere 380,000 are worth a single $1 million. And a lot of those are only 1.1, 1.3. They're not really jumping past that. What you see on the other side is that there's 83 million white homes, and 15%, 13 million white homes are worth over $1 million. And 850,000 of those homes are worth over $12 million. So we have a good chunk of white homes that are super millionaires. And I think for a lot of us, we're not able to contextualize that and understand how that leads to you having power over other people in terms of employment, in terms of career advancement, in terms of intimate relations. And I fundamentally look at this as a power issue. And I think that for so many of us, what we've started to do is not really understand how race, wealth, and gender intertwine, and we've recreated a narrative without laying all the cards out on the table. And I'm here to lay the cards out on the table. I think what both men did was atrocious, but part of the reason that we see an easiness to show Bill Cosby next to his victims is the reality that black male imagery is cast against a larger lens of mass incarceration. So his image against white female faces plays quite well in the media as far as looking like a criminal, whereas Harvey Weinstein looks like somebody's dad or uncle or grandfather, and it's a much harder sell. And I think that in some ways that points to the sadness of it all, which is and part of the reason that we need to deal with it all, because we need to be able to ferret out those people who actually are predators, no matter what their skin color, gender, race, or wealth level. And so, like, what I continue on with saying is that we look across at there was 2 articles that came out, one by Very Smart Brothers and one by Madame Noir, and both of them were problematic. They casted African American men as some kind of predators that isn't supported by any kind of empirical data. As a legal expert, I'll tell you there's no empirical data to show that black men have a higher propensity toward physical violence, toward sexual harassment, and to have a black paper, and then essentially you have Madame Noir essentially cast black men as this image, it fits right into this narrative of like the easy sell. And I think that we have to understand, when there's no empirical data, you don't get to write that. Don't get me wrong, you can write your personal experience, but you can't then cast that as a generalization. You need empirical data, you need to do the work. And I look at this whole thing with Weinstein, with Cosby, and I think that the danger, if we don't step back and look at who has the power to do this, and why would they do this, and how do we correct this going forward to make sure it never happens to another victim, we got to be honest about who can be a victim. And that brings me to Terry Crews. Powerful young black actor, you know, came up the hard way. I believe he started off as a security guard at the Fridays movie. And now he's rose the ranks, and essentially what he's able to do now is he has a sitcom on TV. So what comes out yesterday is that he was sexually harassed. But what's interesting is, as I put it on my Facebook, so many people had a problem seeing him as a victim of sexual harassment. Essentially, he's at a party, this is the story that he gives, and he doesn't say who actually did it. He says that essentially, I want to give my story where I was sexually harassed. He's at a party with his wife, Hollywood party, and a Hollywood executive walks up and grabs him by his genitals. And he's put in a position to choose between his career and his pride. And essentially, what I'm bringing up is not whether his answer to that question is right or wrong. What I'm bringing up more so is the reality that any of us could be victims. And as a result, it is on all of us to push to ferret out predators, no matter what their color, no matter what their race, no matter what their gender. And I think fundamentally, because we don't want to acknowledge that this roots itself in power, we don't want to acknowledge how many people actually use this power and how many people are silent about all of the harassment that happens to them sexually, whether male or female, because there's no space for them to say so. Terry Crews is just as much a victim as any other person that was victimized by Bill Cosby, or victimized by Harvey Weinstein, or victimized by many other people in the industry that haven't come out. And we need to give everybody their space to be able to speak out so that we all can reach a proper resolution. Again, please go to tonetalks.org to subscribe to this channel, and go to donate at tonetalks.org. That's how I keep this going, the channel, the radio show. Tune in at Dash Talk. Press the Dash Radio button. You download the app before Friday, so you already have it. 7 o'clock Pacific Standard Time. Then also what you can do is go to YouTube, Tone Talks. I'll be streaming the actual in-studio live. And I look forward to a great discussion with Dr. Kevin Cosby. And I look forward to you tuning in. Thank you so much.